Hi, Philip Brown here, the Bearded Math Man. I'm always talking about how important it is to teach concepts in favor of just teaching procedure, but what is the difference between conceptual instruction and procedural instruction? How are they different? And do we need a balance between the two? How do we do that? That's what we're going to talk about in this video. You know, one thing that we do in math is we take something that's maybe a little tricky, translate it into a simpler problem and examine that, and then see if we can maybe draw some parallels between the two. Because, well, it is really tricky to discuss, well, what exactly does conceptual instruction look like? How is it different from what you're doing right now, right? So let's look at an analogy here. Let's consider this little thought experiment. Let's say that your objective is to teach your students how to make toast. And you got two ways. We got the traditional American way, which is highly procedural, and we've got, well, maybe the new way, the conceptual way. Actually, I teach a program through Cambridge University, and it's a very, very conceptual-based curriculum, and the tests are very conceptual-based. And maybe you don't know, but all of the new standardized testing that's done here in the United States, it's very conceptual-based. That's why the grades have just plummeted. You have to really understand what it is you're doing in order to pass those tests. So we want our students to know how to make toast, right? So here in the United States, we would introduce them to a toaster, of course, right? We would tell them, okay, you see those little slots in the top, you put your bready type item in there. You turn the knob, the little knobby right there, until you select the level of darkness you want. If you got a fancy toaster, there's going to be a button on the front with a picture of different types of bready items. You know, you got bread, you got bagels, English muffins. Push which one of those it is that you have, to press the lever and wait. Now maybe if it's an advanced class, you teach them also what to do if the bread gets stuck in there. It doesn't come out when the toaster is done. And maybe you teach them to unplug it because, you know, toaster circuits are notoriously cheap and short circuit and catch on fire. And maybe you teach them that there's all kinds of toast, light toast, dark toast, medium toast. They're all equally valuable, and if you prefer one over the other, well, then you're the kind of toast that's not very good, because we're tolerant of everything except for the intolerant. All right, joking a little bit, don't mean to make light of social issues and social awareness, but they don't belong in math texts. I believe that very much so. Anyway, the student will know how to make toast with a toaster. You could do the other way though, the conceptual way, because teaching them how to use a toaster is very procedural. You could teach them what toast is. It's a piece of already baked bread that is slightly burnt in an even fashion along the cut side. That way it's a wonderful substrate for your favorite spreadable deliciousness. Peanut butter, butter, jelly, jam, marmalade, whatever you like. That's what toast is. Then you could show them the toaster and they would instantly see how it takes bread or bagels or whatever and toasts them. No big deal, right? What's the difference between the two? Not much, unless you tell each group to make toast and they don't have a toaster. That's right. We've taught the first group, the traditional American sort of lesson, we taught them how to make toast using a toaster, but we haven't really taught them what toast is. The second group, though, we spent most of our energies explaining what toast is, and then we showed them a tool or two that they could use. Very, very powerful, because they know what toast is, they can adapt, they can change, they can apply those principles of what toast is to make toast in many different ways. And more than likely, if they were asked to, say, toast some, some seasonings, like on the, before cooking, like a cooking technique, they would know what that means. Toast some sesame seeds, they would know exactly what that means. But if toast meant using the toaster, well, the American students would probably take a little vial of sesame seeds and just dump them in the toaster and make a god-awful mess. It would be a disaster, you see? So if you're teaching concept, you're doing more than just teaching them how to do something. You're teaching them the nature of what it is that they're doing. Sometimes with, procedural focused instruction, we spend so much time talking about the tools that students don't even know what they are, and they really don't even know how to use them. We could actually take that to an extreme, and sometimes this happens, especially in math class, where we teach them a procedure with such great detail, but we never put it in a bigger context, so students don't even know anything. For example, well, they don't know anything practical. For example, let's talk about a hammer. We could talk about the chemical composition of a hammer and its physical attributes. We could talk about its weight, its size, its dimensions, its balance, what kind of alloys were made to use it, how those alloys are made. We could talk about where the metals were mined and all the shipping logistics. We could talk about all things hammer related, but a hammer is just a tool. If that's all a student ever knew about a hammer, and you gave them a hammer, or a situation arose where they had a hammer at their disposal and they needed it, they wouldn't actually know what to do because they don't know what it's good for. When we spend so much time on procedure, we teach them procedure after procedure after procedure, they don't know what it's good for. They don't know how to apply it because they don't know how it fits in with these concepts. And the concepts, there's actually very, very few, and they're interchangeable. Well, not interchangeable, but they're interlocking, they're overlapping, and not just within one class, but from one class to the next, to the next, to the next, and so on. So with concepts, you're teaching big ideas and their influence and their consequence of some of their attributes and how they interrelate with other, well, concepts. And with procedures, well, you're talking about like the tools that can be applied with those concepts. You need them both. And students certainly shouldn't be expected to reinvent the wheel for your subject. Absolutely not. However, a lot of those tools are, well, obvious. Their purpose is obvious, and what to do and when, well, that really fits the concept. And if a student understands the concept and the purpose of the concept, they're going to know what tools to use and when to use them. I hope that this kind of makes it a little clear without getting into too many specifics about, well, what subject you teach. You see, I'm a math teacher, of course, and I can get into the details of the difference between teaching something like order of operations procedurally versus conceptually. But there's so many things, it's so vast that I just kind of wanted to generalize and share my thoughts and where it is that I'm heading. So anyway, you might not know, but I'm on a mission. I find it very upsetting that when students graduate from high school to go to college, a huge percentage of them have to take, well, up to 18 months of remedial math. It's really expensive, it's time consuming. People will avoid certain career paths because the math is a roadblock, it's in the way. Should not be that way. It should not be that way. I feel like, even though I mostly teach freshmen, I feel like if one of my students graduates from high school and goes and has to take remedial classes, I have failed them. I don't want that to happen to any student. So what I'm doing is I am putting together a group of materials for teachers, parents, and students alike that cover everything that's typically taught in high school. And it's done in a way, not so they just learn that particular, thing, but they have a conceptual foundation so that when they go to college, all of it's approachable. So when they go to college, they will not have to be taking remedial courses. In fact, I would love it. I would absolutely love it. It makes me just want to do a little happy dance when students come report to me that they tested out of all math. Yeah, you heard it. They go to college and they don't have to take any math for their four-year degree. That is fantastic. That means that we, as high school teachers, did a great job. So anyway, I just wanted to share with you a few thoughts on the difference between conceptual teaching and procedural teaching. Again, when you're teaching concepts, you're teaching big ideas. They will have a foundation. A lot of the procedures will just present themselves. They'll be able to apply these ideas in new ways and to different things, and they will retain those concepts. When you teach procedure, you're just teaching steps. You're programming them, and they won't have very high recall. When you teach procedure, they end up having to take remedial classes when they go to college. So anyway, I'm Philip Brown. I thank you very much for your time. Hope you have a great day. Till next time, see you later.